perspective, a quantity perspective, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up soon. But I'll pause there and turn it over to General Ryan if he has anything else he'd like to add to that.
General Ryan?
Mr. Chairman, I share your same concerns of where we're at with Mesquite. But let me first just say, thank you for your continued support and advocacy. The authorities and the resourcing that enabled us to get after this 100,000, per month mandate have been, instrumental to the progress we've made. And it's a historic level of funding that we've received, to the likes we haven't seen since World War II.
Yeah.
And the investments we've made, both in terms of advanced manufacturing capability, adding resilience, improving workforce safety with the modernization efforts is critically important. So when we kicked off this surge, it was with a lot of the 1940s aging infrastructure, and it really forced us to look at, other sources to reach some of this capacity. And so when you think of a 155, right, we've got a fuse, we've got, a metal projectile, we've got an energetic fill, we've got a propelling charge and a primer. And so we made investments to add, second and third sources in some cases to get to this number. I think the beauty of that is that those investments, are bringing advanced manufacturing, automation, all the things that are going to add resilience, are going to improve workforce safety with some of our facilities. And so you look at Line 3A, down in Iowa as an example. That's been in continuous operation since 1940. We just awarded a contract this past fall for a future artillery center that's going to be, probably the most advanced melt pour operation where we load our artillery projectiles. New 6-8 facility. No one could remember when the last time we built anything new at Lake City. The answer was 26 December 1940. They found it in Harry S. Truman's Presidential Library. It's the last time we built anything new. And so we certainly appreciate, all the support going forward. Look forward to continue working with you because a lot of those investments were very targeted towards 155, and there's a lot more to the conventional munitions space than just artillery.
Yeah, there's a lot more left to do, and we appreciate the Army being willing to take risks, and we've said this plainly and clearly, that is, take risks, but if you're going to fail quickly. Make sure you take away lessons from that. Make sure we recover as much of the resources that we've expended there. Make sure, too, that we have partners that are willing to share in the risk. I think that's key with this Mesquite facility. And listen, I understand folks not wanting to say, "Oh, that was a failure," but I want to make sure that if there's not a clear and quick path to recovering there, that we're not afraid to say, "Hey, sorry, we're going to move on. We learned something from that. We spent some money, but let's move on to the next stop in that effort." Let me ask one other real quick question about novel energetics. We talk about being cast in the past. As far as our weapons production capability, we are still there when it comes to weapons chemistry. We are using two weapons compounds, both for explosives and propellants, that go back to World War II, RDX and HMX, and we developed the more modern novel energetics in CL-20. And our adversaries use as their metric CL-20, we use as our metric the substances that are developed in 1940. So when we ask the question, why are the Chinese having more success in range and lethality, and they're using the weapons chemistry that we developed, and we wonder why we're getting outsticked? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. And that it's taken us so long to actually ramp up and put in place an Office of Energetics so we can look at that and modernize these weapons platforms. I want to get a perspective from you all about how you think the Joint Energetics Office is going to operate, and what will it do to quickly modernize existing weapon systems and look at modern energetics for future weapon systems. We know initially there's been a lot of success there. That shouldn't be surprising since CL-20, CL stands for China Lake. We actually developed this stuff, and then we allow the Chinese to steal it and use it against us. It just doesn't make sense. So give me a pathway forward where we're going to be using novel energetics to get back in the business of range and lethality.
So, Chairman, I don't disagree that we need to continue to figure out how to get better energetics in most of our weapon systems. And so I agree with you, the fact that the JETO office will hopefully be the sort of guiding light for that for the department as we continue to move forward. Why that is being stood up, the Army has not waited. The Army's continue to move. We got 3 projects right now where we are integrating CL-20 into 3 different weapons to prove out how well or how the weapon design will have to change to successfully use those materials. And so those are going to lead to a variety of tests that are occurring later this year, but absolutely moving out. We see other areas that we think we can, CL-20 will bring better capabilities for us, whether that's longer range munitions where weight becomes a challenge. Think everything from one-way attack UAS to longer range munitions. We also see it in small UAS where you have small UAS that can't carry a lot of payload, and so to get a bigger bang for the buck with the payload. And so absolutely as a prior naval weapons system engineer, understand what we do at the labs and where that was created. And there's lots of capabilities like that we have within our labs that we need to continue to bring to the forefront. And we see the JETO office as sort of leading that charge for us.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. There's a lot of capability out there that happens at our labs, that happens at a lot of places where some great research is done, like DARPA and others. Unfortunately, it gets put on the shelf because they're not allowed to be advocates for their products, and they can't go out and actively find customers. We have to find a way to close that gap too, because I think if a lot of people out there in the combat space knew these things were available, they would be the biggest advocates to put them in their arsenal. So with that, I'll turn to my colleague, Mr. Norcross, for his questions. And with that, Mr. Norcross.
Thank you, Chairman. We've heard repeatedly the SecDef talk about sending the demand signals to the industry so that they can react appropriately in the relevance of time. So first question goes to you, Assistant Secretary Ingram. We've talked about the 100,000 round goal per month on the 155s. I believe you said we are still looking to make that goal. So A, for what period of time? Because it goes directly to the question of sending the signals. Great, 100,000, we made it 2 months and we're backing off. How long do you anticipate, in rough numbers, that 100,000 goal?
So that number from a U.S. perspective, right? Like I said, boom to bust is real, right? We are getting closer and closer to coming up to our tamers, to our sort of readiness numbers that we need back for 155 for conventional shells, right? But we're not there yet. We also know that there's still a demand from a number of our allies and partners that are out there, and so I do not see us backing off from that number for a few years yet.
Okay, good news. You mentioned the different parts for the 155s, and we talked about Mesquite as being the metal. Where is the choke point right now on the building of each shell? Is it the metal, the energetics? Where are we?
I'm going to let General Ryan cover that. He's closer to the day-to-day operations of the shell.
Two areas. For the 100,000 number, early on, metal parts was the LIMFAC, it was driving, the focus of our efforts. And so, we had a kind of phased of approach. We had the mission to produce as many as humanly possible on day one at existing facilities. In parallel, we were making investments to bring other sources online. We've been successful with IMT in Canada. Just right before the holidays, we had successfully did first article tests, and they're in production. We all know about Mesquite, and it's not where we want, but we've also invested heavily in Scranton, and that's a tough challenge to produce at max capacity while doing targeted modernization. And I would tell you that Scranton is unrecognizable from when you were out there most recently, visiting the facility. All the old 5-inch, all the old M107 equipment's out. There's new floors, there's new lights, new parking lot. We refurbished the crane. We've got our new go-to-war rounds, the 1128, 1113 lines going in. It is completely different. later this summer, we'll realize, kind of phase 2 of the expansion at Scranton, and we'll be at 35,000. The sister, commercial